Think back to middle school. Sorry if you're cringing there. Do you remember being in gym class or at sports practice and your coach would make you run laps or sprints if you messed up? Or if you grew up in the US, do you remember the pressure of the pacer test?
The test will start after a 5-second countdown on the word start. Ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, start.
So many people equate running as punishment, since honestly, that's what a lot of us experienced in school. And for those of us who run now, despite that upbringing, many of us put extra pressure to perform a certain way or look a certain way as a runner. I'll be the first to say that trail running changed my life. If you scroll back through these episodes, you'll find conversations that talk about how running shifts perspectives and confidence for myself and many of our guests. And that's why we launched the first 50K Sisterhood, a 2026 scholarship program that's helping 15 women run their first ultramarathon in just a few months from now. This winter, we built this inaugural cohort of women from applicants across the country. With support from our sponsors, these women are getting the physical and mental coaching, gear, and race entry for the Wild Woman 50K on June 20th. These women will be sharing their stories as they train, so you can follow along and get inspired. And the group is fundraising $15,000 for future outdoor sports scholarships for other girls and women. These women represent different backgrounds, different running journeys, and different reasons for stepping up to that starting line. But reading through all these applications, I saw so many connecting threads between the applicants, myself, and countless other runners that I've spoken with. One theme that popped out to me in these applications was body image. A lot of people start running because they're looking to manipulate their bodies in some way, their appearance. And it's even more challenging when Instagram is loaded with picture-perfect running scenes where people make movement look effortless. And it's paired with this damaging and untrue message that running in a smaller body is somehow better. I know plenty of women who run because they love the feeling, but who also feel our culture's pressure to be perfect, whatever that means. My good friend Emily Holland and I have swapped stories for years about our running histories, body image, getting swole, and so much more. Her story is one that I want you all to hear and please share with others as a reminder that we're probably going to continue to take in toxic messaging in running media. But with care and thoughtfulness, we can always come back to feeling strong and happy in our bodies. And we can create our own media to shift our running culture as a whole. In this episode, Emily openly shares her story, which references eating disorders and body image topics. So please know yourself and know whether right now is a good time to hear the details of those topics in her story. You're about to hear Emily's sports journey from basketball to rock climbing and trail running, what she's learned about fueling her body, and her 2025 race recap of the Gorge Waterfalls 50K and the famous Grand Traverse in Colorado. This is See Her Outside, Stories from Women Who Adventure. I'm your host, Angie Lake. Emily Holland is the partnerships manager at HydraPak, where she builds collaborations that fuel adventure and strengthen community across the outdoor industry. Emily's spent a lot of her career working with outdoor creators and business owners with the belief that great brands are built through relationships. Based in Lyons, Colorado, and originally from upstate New York, Emily spends her time trail running, hiking, rock climbing, skiing, and soaking up as much time outside as possible with her super cute rescue dog, Kata. Emily, do you remember your very first run?
My very first run would probably have to be in basketball practice as a punishment, doing like suicides on the basketball court.
Can you believe they call them that, by the way?
I don't think do they still? What's the new name for them? I don't know.
But between that and the pacer test, it was very traumatic.
Yeah. Basketball practice was basically just like a large punishment. It was quite fun, but it was also a large punishment. But I do remember I grew up in a very rural area, but for some reason our house was on like the busiest road in the rural area. And when I was, I think 13 or 14, I started running just like a 2-mile thing, like 1 mile one way and then 1 mile back, and would map it out on Map My Run, if that, is a recall or a back to the past call back for people. That was a crazy app, actually. That was really helpful. But anyways, I would like go for a mile and then come back. But it would be so like loud and busy because it's all the like tractor trailers driving on our road. So it wasn't very quintessential rural, but I could get there if I went a little further, but I never did.
Oh, I remember the Map My Run days. You would go for a run without any tools, or even, I didn't even have a watch. And then I would come home and be like, okay, where did I go? Let's see how far I went.
Yeah. And like, no, I didn't listen to music or anything. I didn't have, well, I might have had an iPod, but it was like, one album or something on there because I was stealing music and felt bad about it.
Yeah, what album?
So
what were
it was
you
just a different, probably some emo music. I listened to a lot of emo and punk when I was younger. I just found my emo playlist recently, and like on Spotify that I created a few years ago, nostalgically, and it really still hits. It hits really hard.
Oh, I listen to it when I'm biking all the time. It's called Middle School Playlist. It's so good. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, we'll bring you back to your intention. So you're 13 or 14 when you start running more regularly. What drew you to the sport?
Well, I was looking around and I thought, wow, I feel and maybe look bigger than everyone else around me. I should probably figure out a way to tamp that down a little bit and reduce my size. And mind you, I was a normal weight class for my age, but I had a lot of body dysmorphia that started when I was like 5 or 6. I have my first memory of body dysmorphia around that time. And so I started running because I wanted to look better and I wanted to be hot like the other girlies in school. And that didn't work out because you can run a lot, but if you don't change anything else about your life, it doesn't really like change your body that much. And that was my goal in doing it. But yeah, so that's how I started, is just because I wanted to look smaller, be smaller.
Mm-hmm. Were you getting any influence from basketball or your basketball team around that in your how you treated your body?
Not really. I would say that actually the basketball court was where I felt more powerful and strong. And it wasn't, and there was a few people on our team, if I remember correctly, that were a little bit like bigger. Those were like the center or the forwards in the game. But there was never that much conversation about size besides like, oh, you're smaller, maybe you should be a shooting guard. Oh, you're taller, you should be a center. Those types of things. But I remember feeling just like powerful on the floor and excited about, the game and trying to win and do better and learn more. Mm-hmm. That was actually a really good aspect of my sports life, I would say.
Yeah, I've always thought about the different culture behind different sports. I mean, when I had a similar to your basketball was probably how I did karate in elementary and middle school. And I just felt so strong and capable and inspired. And I did not think about how my body looked other than like, oh, look, I can kick higher than everyone else. but then moving into, later in my adult life, I was playing ice hockey as an adult, and that had a very different culture from where I was playing ultimate frisbee. Like ice hockey, I was the only woman on a men's team, and it was very, I had a lot of derogatory comments at me, even though they seemed to like me and want me there. I was still like, I can't believe you just said that to my face. Whereas,
like what?
Oh, just like, a lot of, boob jokes and, well, you're a woman,
classic,
so blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And ultimate frisbee was totally different, where it was like, oh, you don't even know how to throw. We still want you starting on the team and, come hang out on the weekends. And I've just always noticed like differences in the culture of sport, and running in particular is fascinating because it can go on very different ends of a spectrum. It can be that more ultimate frisbee, all are welcome. Who cares about your pace or your body, what it looks like? Or it can be very restrictive and controlling and punishing yourself to look a certain way, feel a certain way.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like even now we see like this rise in run clubs, which is awesome to see. But it's also, there's like an underlying focus of a lot of run clubs that I've seen where it's like just a bunch of hot people, like classically quote unquote hot, coming together and running and, maybe dating and stuff like that. And so there are run clubs certainly that have more of that, like all paces are welcome, all sizes, types of people are welcome. But I find that sometimes when you even go to those things, they might preach it, but they don't practice it, which is a bummer. So I do want to see more of these run clubs like be more inclusive in that aspect. But that's just a little TED Talk for the future.
Noted. Well, how were the rest of your teen years when it came to running and your relationship with it in your body?
Yeah, I just kept running, like, especially every summer throughout teens and then in college as well, with like late teens, early 20s. Every summer I would be like, okay, I'm going to like lose weight, get in shape. So then when I go back, people are going to be like, whoa, look at you. You're so hot or whatever. I really wanted to seem attractive, basically. That was like my biggest need and desire in life, which is quite sad. And I feel very sad for like thinking back on younger Emily, and that focus is rough. But I remember my grandma was in the hospital one time while I was in high school, and I had been running. It was the summer, and I went to see her, and she was like a little delirious, but I remember her saying something along the lines of like, wow, you look so skinny, like kind of in a bad way. And I remember thinking, oh, that's great. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Like she wasn't even saying it to compliment me. She was like a little worried about it. And I had similar responses from a couple other people in my life, both from school or from family or whatever. And I would be like, great, that was my goal. So like, if they're noticing it, then yay. I did the cabbage soup diet. I did all these like crash diets that were so bad for your like nutrients and development, but I forced myself to do them, ate the Special K, like
the 100-calorie snack packs.
Yeah, the snack packs, exactly. So all of that, conditioning when we were younger, because we're very much at the same age, was very resonant for me and was very important to me to feel small, to look small, or try to be as small as possible. And it was quite challenging. And I developed sort of a hatred of running in that time, because I was like, this is the thing that I need to do in order to punish myself for eating the thing yesterday, or I'm going to drink a lot tonight. I'm going to go out and party. So I need to like run that off in advance, which as we know now, like that's not really how it works. So it was tough. And when I went to college, I developed bulimia as well. And so there was like this added thing that came into play there was the punishing with the working out, but then there was also the punishing on the other side of the food aspect too. So it was a bit of a dark time for my athletic career, if we can call it that.
Yeah, I relate a lot. I remember in college, those were also my years of over pushing, over controlling, losing joy in all the things that I thought were bringing me joy. And it really makes me sad, because I could have been a stronger athlete in the sports that I loved if I had given myself more rest, more food. Like I would be going to the gym before ultimate frisbee practice. And I was doing that because I thought it would make me a better athlete, whatever better means. But actually, it was hurting me. And it made it so that I was injured enough that I couldn't play ultimate frisbee.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like trying to take these quote unquote tips from magazines on how to be this perfect athlete, perfect woman, whatever. It's really the opposite was happening.
Yeah. And I'm really glad with how far things have come since then, but also like, they are still there. I still see the magazines, and there's still these like comparisons of like, celebrities from when they were, 19 to now when they're 40 and like, look how much weight they've gained. It's like these messages are still pervasive, but they really seep into your brain when you're like in your teens for sure. Mm-hmm.
So what pulled you out of that? If that was a low point in your life with your relationship to your body, how did you get back up?
Oh, well, I'm still learning that.
Tell me all your answers.
Yeah, I think well, first of all, I started seeking therapy like later in my college timeline. And I think that started to help. I went to a couple group therapy sessions that were offered at Ithaca College where I went to school. And that was really helpful in understanding like, oh, I'm not alone in these feelings. This is what we always say about like learning that other people are going through the same thing gives you so much freedom to understand yourself and to be more compassionate towards yourself. And I think that it really did that. But I wouldn't say I like got over that quickly. I would have bouts of bulimic tendencies, or bulimic actions, I should say, until I was like 24. So it was like a long period of time where depending on how I felt about myself that day, I would be like punitive with, binging and purging. Or the first like runs and races that I signed up for were basically so that I had a reason to run a ton and be able to hopefully lose weight. And that still sometimes comes up in my mind, but now I feel like I have better self-awareness to be like, oh, I'm trying to do this thing because I want to look like this, or, oh, I want to do this race because it'll help me to like run a lot and, shed some pounds. Where in the last training cycle that I did, I gained weight and I felt really strong. And so, it's been an evolution, but it still comes up for me, I would say, like, depending on the activity, the sport that I'm doing, it just shows up like slightly differently, if that makes sense.
Do you have like a memory of a specific moment where you realized, oh, this is not sustainable? The way I'm treating my body is not going to be able to last forever.
Yeah, well, I think I had a slight moment in that every time I made myself throw up. I think like I had a moment of like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, this is so bad for me. But maybe it was actually more about fueling. It was my first marathon training. I remember coming home and being so hungry from like a 20-mile run. And this was before I understood anything about carbs or like how to fuel correctly, which has been very, very helpful. But at the time I like wouldn't eat before a run like that, like before leaving the door, which is crazy. Mm-hmm. That is really not good. But the purpose being that I was like, well, I just want to burn extra calories of the stuff I ate yesterday or whatever, prepare for eating a big meal later. And I came back and I was so depleted. I ate 3 bagels in a row. And then I felt like I was going to have a heart attack because I had like chest pain that was happening. And my sister laughs at she laughs at it now. She was not laughing at it then because I texted her saying, I think I'm having a heart attack.
From bagels. And
she's like, from 3 bagels. That's not something you text, Emily. And anyways, all to say that was a moment in which I was like, there's something like wrong here, but I didn't have enough awareness to be like, I should think about it, or I should consider maybe changing my tact here. Mm-hmm. It was more of just like, what the heck's going on with my body? I don't really know. And I felt really like disconnected from it in a way that I was finally like becoming, I think, more aware of. Yeah. I'd always been disconnected from my body, but now I was like, thinking I was having a heart attack.
Yeah.
So there was a little bit more awareness that came in from that.
Yeah. I was having warning signs for years of like, this is not sustainable. Like I had a terrible stress fracture that left me in a boot for months. I remember it was my 21st birthday and I was hobbling around the city streets of Boston wearing my boot and just I was hiking. I hiked a 4,000 footer in New Hampshire with my boot on. Looking back,
oh my gosh,
I'm like cringing at the photos. So it's like I had all of these warning signs, but it took me until having an actual medical emergency. It's like whether real, like I had my birth control ruptured my fallopian tube, or if it's perceived, am I having a heart attack? I think sometimes it takes that actual like, oh, wow, am I actually destroying my body because of the way I've been treating it? You can ignore your boot, you can ignore your fatigue, you can ignore your hunger. But once you think like, wait, am I actually dying? Like that tends to be a wake up call, I think.
Yeah. Wait, am I dying is a good. Yeah. And then realizing, because when I was younger, I was struggling with depression so much. I was struggling with all this stuff with the bulimic and trying to understand my identity as a person and, all these things that a lot of people go through. And I just felt like I had no vision for my life after like 23. Yeah. It was like, if I make it, cool, I'll figure it out then. But it was pretty dark in that, like, I don't know if I'll live beyond that kind of thinking. And so when I got to that point and I was like, oh, I have no roadmap. I don't know what I'm going to do from here. I think that kind of hit me in the face a little bit and made me realize, especially when I have these moments of like, I might be having a heart attack, or maybe I got too drunk, blacked out, and got nervous about that. There was a couple moments where it was like, oh no, I want to be, I like really want to be here. I don't want to leave this, which I think for me was important, if not like quite sad, but like very important to my journey, as I call it.
Hey, quick interruption here, but I know you want to hear it. Emily's running story is just one of many that we get to amplify this year. So we invite you to learn about the 15 women of the first 50K sisterhood. In the show notes, there is a link to our webpage that shows the whole cohort and how to follow along with them on social media. You'll also see the brands who stand behind getting more women in trail running, plus a growing body of blog posts about women in running from myself and prior trailblazers and the current runners. We would love for you to cheer on the first 50K sisterhood runners as they train for Wild Woman trail runs this June. They're taking us along the journey and getting real and honest, just like Emily. Okay, I asked Emily about when her relationship with her body and sports started to shift.
I would say that when I met and started dating Andrew was when the tide started turning for me a little bit. And I know there's like this old adage, like you can't love anyone until you love yourself. I just actually think that that's incorrect. And so I needed to see that I was worth loving in order to like believe it myself, see it in someone who I really respected too, who I thought had good ideas and good opinions. So for the first couple of years of our relationship, we were still in Boston, which is quite it's very work oriented, and there's not a ton of focus on like looking a certain way like there might be in New York or LA, but there is a focus on fitness for sure. But not in a way that felt like suffocating. So when we moved out to Colorado, I was still kind of in my mindset of I need to have a race on the calendar like every 6 to 9 months. I need to look like a rock climber. I need to look like a runner, which, by the way, those are very different aesthetics. And so that doesn't make any sense. And so when I first moved out here, the first year of us living here, I would say was like me kind of grappling with the fact that I didn't, in my opinion, look like a Boulder person, which is a very specific type of look, I would say. Just like shredded, basically. It looks like they could climb a mountain at any given point during the day. And they do. And they do.
There's a draw to that city.
Yeah. Yeah. So I started rock climbing after leaving a job in Boston that I was working, 80-hour weeks. And I was like, I had a little break between then and my next job. And I was like, oh, I need to find something to do because I have no hobbies. I have no friends that I've been able to make. So I had one friend that got like a discount for the local gym, which was Brooklyn Boulders at the time in Somerville, Mass. And I started climbing there and I really liked it. And when I eventually got my new job and met Andrew, he was a rock climber. So that was a big part of our early relationship. But I think I have this type of perfectionism when it comes to trying anything new, which I think is called like the naturally gifted or naturally talented type of perfectionism, which is like, if I'm not good at something immediately, I get like really frustrated. That is, I've worked on that a lot over the years, but I found that I was really frustrated a lot with rock climbing because I just like was scared, or I was, not getting certain grades that I wanted to get. And it only happened a couple years ago that I felt like, oh, I really like climbing in my own way. And a lot of that is just challenging myself for my own personal challenge and not like what the sport sort of dictates. And I think both running and rock climbing have taught me different things. Rock climbing, I think, has taught me more about what I'm capable of with physical strength and also mental strength and overcoming fear and working through it. And running, I think, has taught me more about being super aware of my body and how to give it what it needs in order to excel in my own way in the sport. I'm not winning any records. I'm not getting any FKTs. I'm not like, there's nothing like, nationally impressive about my abilities in these sports, but it's like finding small slices of challenge within them for myself, which gives me a lot of joy for the love of the challenge.
Yes. Well, that's a pretty big shift, going from using running as primarily punishment and control and perfectionism to finding lessons from it about resilience and knowing yourself. Not like how did that shift? Do you remember the first race or maybe adventure run that made you realize like, oh, I have a different relationship with this sport now?
I think it was really this year. I trained for 2 races this year. And while I had trained for a couple races the last, 2019, I think 2020 were my last races that I did, I didn't know anything about fueling, or I was fueling a little bit, but not to the level that maybe you should be with the knowledge that we have now of carb fueling. And when I was training this year, I really gave myself a lot of permission to, first of all, eat whatever I wanted. Whenever I felt hungry, I was like, yes, I'm going to eat. I mean, of course, I like to eat nutritious things. Like that's generally what I eat anyways. But like, I really was not stringent on my diet at all. And the reason being is I really was like, I want to give this training block like everything I can. And I know now that I need food in order to do that, because there have been training cycles in the past where I was having heart attacks or whatever that was. And you know what? My recovery was really bad because I wasn't eating the right things, or eating enough rather. So that was really helpful. And then I would also say having a coach that, in our training, block together, and what he even put in my training for longer runs, longer than 45 minutes, he would tell me how much I should eat during that time. And for me, I am not a person who doesn't like authority figures. I love authority figures. Tell me what to do all day, every day. I love that for me. And so I trusted him, and I knew that he had my best interests at heart, and he wanted me to do well on that run, but then also in the recovery of that run. And so I was able to listen very well for that. Good A student, gold stars. And it made me so much happier, because I used to feel like after a long run, I would have to like lay on the couch for 5 hours. And that's like, we see that, right? Like we like see that on Instagram and stuff. People like, oh, my only thing that I did today was a run. And now that I was fueling, I was like, oh my God, I have all this extra energy. Like I feel better while I'm running. And then I also feel better afterwards and the next day. And so I was like seeing this real-time data unfold. And that combined with years of therapy of like, trying to love myself more, I think really came together in a really like magical way this year.
Yeah. I'm so glad too that you mentioned the fact that recovery is so much better. Like the rest of your life is so much better when you're eating on runs. I knew that, and I'm pretty good about eating on runs now. But just last month on my birthday, I kind of got lost in the mountains and I accidentally went out for 8 or 9 miles when I only meant to go out for like 5. So I didn't have any food with me. And it's one thing to feel like you don't have enough food while running. But for me, the next day, I was tired. I was more sore. I was like, what is this? And I realized, oh, it's because I didn't run I didn't eat while I was running. So it really makes a big difference.
Yeah. And I think like starting small is really helpful with that. Like when I was training a couple years ago, I was eating some, but I didn't know how many grams per hour I should be eating or like types of things you might want to eat, how your body deals with caffeine. And I think the really cool thing, especially for someone maybe who doesn't feel like they're super connected to their body, is like you can test certain things. So if you're in a training block, you can be like, cool, I'm going to try this nutrition with caffeine this time. And then if it doesn't go well, you sort of know that, or you can also train your body to work with it a little bit more. So there's like a little bit of empowerment that comes with that, where you're like, okay, I know what I can and cannot eat. And that's why like I don't take anything from aid stations unless it's stuff I've trained with, because I am just like very adamant about not, having to poop yourself on the course if you don't have to. So I'm not going to eat the Oreos, unfortunately, at the aid station. I'll eat them after, but I just don't know what that's going to do to my body during. So, and I trained with like nerds clusters or whatever they're called.
Yeah, those are really hot
nerds
right now.
Clusters.
My favorite reel
so
that I've
good.
seen in the past month is I forget who it was, but she was like, everybody's been asking me why I always bring nerds clusters on my runs. And it's because my body has a condition where it does not produce its own nerds clusters.
Yeah, I saw that too. That's so good. I will say though, nerds clusters, you have to take in like a lot for the serving size. And so if that like, you can't do that while you're running or it grosses you out. Sour Patch watermelon, you only have to take in 9 versus like 17 of the nerds clusters for the serving size. Just a little hot tip. And I think they taste better, to be honest. So
this is all debatable because I am the runner at an aid station who will eat anything. I think I've been able to train my stomach to the way that I don't have to specifically train for any types of foods. I'm eating the potato chips mid 50K. I'm eating I had quesadillas in the middle of my 100. Like I can take it all.
Didn't you have like a bag of mashed potatoes as well?
Yeah, I've made my own baby food. But the thing, so this is interesting and related to our conversation about body image and how we treat our bodies, because the very first 50K that I ever trained for, I was very devoted to making all of my own training snacks. So I still like these recipes, but a lot from like the Run Fast Eat Slow book. Great cookbook. I'm not knocking it. But I was like, well, if I make things from this cookbook, then they're whole foods and they'll make me perform better. And they're more nutritious for me. But actually, there is such a place for these nerds clusters and Sour Patch Kids and quesadillas. Like they're not, for me, it's like one isn't better than the other, but I was spending a lot more time and brain power trying to make all of my own training and racing foods than compared to now when I can just wing it and be okay with anything.
Yeah, that is really a good point, because I also think like there's sort of like this stringency within running or with any sport that you do that you're like, this is how it should be done. And so then you like go down this rabbit hole and eventually, like you and I think you eventually realize like, I don't want to do it that way, so I'm not gonna. There's like a lot of power in that. And I wish that for everyone who has struggles with like the sports that they really love, but like there's this complicated relationship with. And I will say, there's like validity to the whole food approach and there's validity to the goos approach. And I love a goo.
I hate a goo.
But you know what brings me a lot? Yeah, exactly. So it's like, who cares? Is whatever you want your experience to be out there, that can be your experience. And it took me way too long to realize that for both for skiing, rock climbing, and running. Like and I'm still sort of like, realizing it on a daily basis.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to what I was talking about with the certain cultures and certain sports, because there are certain sports that more perfectionistic people are drawn to. And it is actually fascinating to look at. A lot of trail runners and a lot of rock climbers can fall into that perfectionist tendency trap. And for me, that's been a big shift over the years of my evolution of running, and also now being a race director myself with Wild Women Trail Runs. We have seen so many women write to us like, I was planning on running the 50K, but I missed my one long run, and like I got sick for 1 week, so like I'm just gonna have to drop down to the half marathon. And we're like, not even the pros get sick. Elite runners miss their long runs once in a while. Like, you do not have to do. You could probably do 60% of your training plan and still finish the race, right? But we put so much pressure on ourselves to be perfect with our food, with our training, with how we look in our race photos, when like actually probably your race photo, you're going to look like you're feeling like hell, because you probably are.
Never seen a race photo that I like of myself. But you know what, though? I'm so excited afterwards, so it's fine. Like, who cares? Yeah.
So knowing that just this year, 2025 is when we're recording, is when you had kind of your next level up in trail running. What did that look like?
Yeah, I decided I wanted to do Gorge Waterfalls right in your neck of the woods. I basically was just like, I need a reason to go see Angie. But I've been hearing about this race for a long time, and I know Dylan Bowman of Free Trail, and he's involved in it as well. I think puts it on, actually. But it looked beautiful, and I was really excited about it. But then so I signed up in the fall when it went live, and then our mutual friend and client, John Levitt, texted me when the registration went live for the Grand Traverse in Colorado, which happened at the end of August. And he's like, I'm signing up for this. And I can be so easily influenced by him with his enthusiasm. So I just said, okay, yeah, me too. I'll sign up. Not that we were going to be running together, because he ran, I think, like 4 hours faster than me. But we need no need to talk about that. So I knew I wanted to take it really seriously. So I hired a coach who is a friend, Joe Corcione, from Everyday Ultra. And I knew that I wasn't going to be skiing this year. I just wanted to focus on running and not on rock climbing, not on anything else, because those sports don't go together if you're trying to like really do one or the other. And so I just like fully committed to it. And I think what I liked the most about it is that the process of training. I would say that the races were like a nice to have, but I just had so much fun, built so much self-belief, and really felt like very proud of myself for all the training that I put in. And I really took the strength training and the more like physical therapy side of things that I usually put off very seriously, because I had been injured the last time I was training and just didn't want to deal with that again. Obviously, if you get like an acute injury, that's one thing. But if it's because you're being lazy with your strength training and your PT stuff, then I don't know, doesn't feel very good. So yeah, the training went well. I PR'd in the Gorge Waterfalls one, and that race was interesting. There was a lot more road than I anticipated, which I know you hated in scouting the trail.
Yeah. And also the first 2 miles are practically rock climbing uphill, super steep.
Yeah, it's a bit of like scrambly. Yeah, and it was like so wet and like grody up there. And it was just like a really fun and joyous weekend. I got to see you and your partner, and I got to see a good friend of ours as well. Like one of my best friends came, and it was just a really nice culmination of like hard work, which felt really good. And the food in Hood River is pretty dope.
Tacos.
So just like, yeah, the tacos. I went to that place a lot. Oh, and the end of that, this also tells you, I think, a little bit about my evolution with food stuff, is like the end of that race, I finished and I immediately was like, well, there's an ice cream shack like right next to the finish line. So I'm definitely going to get that, which, by the way, that is the best ice cream I've ever had. Maybe it was because I just finished, but it's so good. I love soft serve, and there's very little of it in Colorado. So it was very, very nice. Rainbow sprinkles, please. Yeah.
So it sounds like
that was the Gorge Waterfalls.
Yeah, it sounds like with that race, you like you just said, you had a different relationship with like your post-race food compared to past races. What else do you think shifted between your past races and Gorge Waterfalls 2025?
Well, I had sort of like a mantra in my head for most of the day, which was like, just keep moving. And I had used a mantra in the past, but they felt like they didn't hit as much. I feel like you kind of need you need it to like really speak to you in the moment. Otherwise it feels like really fraudulent. And so I felt like I was able to talk to myself in a really positive way throughout. And I think the other difference was I tried to just be like in awe of the situation. Like I tried to just think to myself, like, isn't it amazing that I get to do something like this? There was like a section where there's like no bridge and you have to kind of like go over this like broken down bridge through this waterfall area. And then another where you're running behind a waterfall in this like iconic place. And I was just like, wow, this is unbelievable that I get to do this. So I just felt like mostly grateful. And I think also like looking at training peaks leading up where I was like, oh, wow, I really crushed my training. Like I did as much as I possibly could. When I couldn't, I made up for it in other ways and got flexible. And then my coach sent me a video too. And it was very nice the day before of like hyping me up. And my partner was like, I want that for like every big presentation I give at work. Just like a nice hype up video. Yeah.
Okay. And then for a lot of people, running a 50K would be like, okay, cool. That was my big running event for the year. But you decided that 4 months after that race, you would do an even bigger race. And it's one that's a bucket list for a lot of people. Can you explain to everyone what is the Grand Traverse and why did you choose it?
Yeah, the Grand Traverse goes from Crested Butte, Colorado to Aspen. And there's actually 3 races throughout the year. There's a mountain biking race, a running race, and there's a ski mountaineering race in the winter. And so a lot of people do this as a triple crown, you know, like the wild athletes in Colorado and other states come and do it. And it's just there's something really special about going from one very iconic ski town to another very iconic ski town. Crested Butte is definitely better than Aspen, but we don't need to get into that. And I love the terrain from both sides that I've seen, but I've never kind of gone point to point or like been in that wilderness for an extended period of time. So I knew I wanted to do it. I had signed up for it in 2020, but they changed the race course and then I got injured as well. And so it just like, it was not the year for me to run that. And so I finally was like, I should just do it this year. I'm going to be training anyways. I want to like really give it what I have. And so it's a special race in that way. And I will say, like, very impressed with the people who do the bike because it is the day after you do the trail run and you go the other way.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's pretty, and I feel like you should do that.
Yeah, I'm about to sign up for all 3.
Yeah. Yeah, the ski mountaineering one too. I'm not sure if that one's also like 40-ish miles, but just given the terrain that we did, I think that would be a real slog for sure. But could be very fun.
It would be. So you trained through, I mean, you had to recover from that 50K in April, and then you had about 4 months to prepare for a step up, like 40-ish miles as opposed to 30-ish. Mm-hmm. Was that training cycle just as strong and empowering as your 50K training cycle?
No, it's like pretty bad actually. I still stuck as much as I could to my training cycle, but I had like, not an injury, but I had like a wound on my foot from one run that I like couldn't run through. And, I got sick a few times. It was just like everything that went well in the first training block went poorly in the second. And there was actually a long run that I did, in the Indian Peaks here in Colorado on August 1st, which was like another bucket list. It's just one that I wanted to do. It's not a race or anything. It's called the Pawnee Buchanan Loop, and it's around like 25 or 26 miles, but it is a lot more up and down than the race was going to be. So I was like, okay, great. This will be like a great training for me. I completely bonked on that. And afterwards I was like, I don't think I'm going to run the Grand Traverse because I don't want to feel like this again. This is like terrible. And I thought I was feeling correctly and it just didn't work out. So I gave myself like 5 days to feel bad about that. And I kept training and was like, if I don't go, I don't go. It's not a big deal. Like, I've done all the work. It's okay. And then getting closer to the race, I'm like, all right. My coach was like, you need another long run that like you can feel really excited about and like confident in. And so I did that and felt really confident. He was right again. And I felt really strong and was able to finish the training block. But yeah, there was a lot of roadblocks in the way. And then, getting to the actual race weekend, every time I do a race weekend, I still, when I see all the people picking up their bibs and stuff, I'm like, man, these people are real runners out here. They're just real. They look like real runners. So I still have those thoughts in my head. But then, day of, gosh, it was a big slog. Didn't have a ton in the tank, but I did complete it before the cutoff, which was, I think, a little bit aggressive, the cutoff. But yeah, it was great. And first time I did like a drop bag situation, and the volunteers were amazing. The views were unbelievable. And my quads really hated the last 5 miles, which were just down a ski slope, basically.
It sounds like the training and the race all combined were sort of like the universe testing you of like, okay, so like you're able to deal with imperfection a little bit more. You're able to just go with the flow and experiment a little bit more. Like, let's see. And it sounds like you did it. You proved it to yourself. Yeah. And you don't have to be perfect in order to do a 40-mile bucket list ultramarathon.
Yes. I think what also helped is my mantra for the Grand Traverse was fuck around and find out. And that's a mantra I think I'm just going to keep with me for a lot of things in life. And John, our mutual friend, gave me a bracelet from a friend of the pod, Your Diet Sucks, Zoe Rome, who created bracelets that say carb slut. And I think having that on really helped.
Oh, yeah. 3 bagels later.
Because 3 bagels. Yeah, exactly. And I knew a couple of people on the trail that I kept leapfrogging with. And that was nice too. And they would be like, hey, carb slut, what's up? So that felt really nice. There was a couple trail angels that were just wonderful. And that makes the experience so much better too. That's why trail running is so much better than road running.
Oh, yes. The different cultures too.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I've never, had a full-on conversation about someone's like trauma and past with a stranger on a road run. So, that only happens out there in the trail running world.
You've shared through the course of this story some shifts that you were able to incorporate to have a healthier relationship with running, with your body, and like things like experimenting more with food or deciding to go all in on training and maybe turning the lever down on your other sports that you love to focus on pushing through, the differences in how you feel strong and mantras. Is there anything else that if somebody's listening and they maybe struggle with body image or maybe they've even had body dysmorphia in the past, like what other tips could you give to find the joy in these sports again without feeling those perfectionist urges all the time?
Yeah, I mean, it's still such a process. So first of all, I feel very akin to those people and like feel like we're all in this club together. And I swear the club is fun. It's not all scary stuff. I think start slow with what you're trying to do. If it's that on your weekly hike with your friend or your weekly walk, you just tell yourself like, wow, I'm so glad I get to do this. I'm so glad that my legs are capable of going up this hill, or that my mind helps me through this like challenging part of the trail, or whatever the thing is that you're trying to do. Like starting small with little reflections like that, I think is really helpful. I remember when I was like 26 or 27, there were times where I would lament to my partner about how I was just too this or too that to do any of these sports. And he would do a good job of reminding me like, yeah, but your legs can get you there and your arms are getting you here and your mind is getting you here. And so like consistently reflecting on that, I think is really, really powerful. And then, something that I had to learn how to do, and I think is really helpful, is to minimize how much you talk about your body's looks with other people, and that will train them to not talk about it with you. And I think if we can focus on what your body is capable of and how it looks like with the people around you, I think that's really helpful as well.
Yeah, I agree. Also, you love strength training, and I have loved. Okay, so earlier in our conversation, you said something around like, I'm not a nationally known elite athlete who's like the best at anything, but something that I think actually does distinguish you from a lot of even pro and elite athletes are the fact that you're sharing these stories, and you're so open. Even in this conversation, you're so open about the really challenging sides of pursuing our passions and our sports, that a lot of people are struggling with these elements, but it's hard to talk about things like food and body image. And I think that you are such a good storyteller with sharing your examples from your life that other people can relate to. And I think that you do this in your work. I mean, you're uplifting other people's stories. You help a lot of other athletes. You help outdoor entrepreneurs. As a self-employed person like myself, you have your hands in a lot of different projects, but you are really helping with those diversifying the stories that we see in sports and outdoor media. So one example of that I've loved to see you play around with on your Instagram is lifting and letting go. Can you tell me your concept of lifting and letting go and what that means to you?
Yeah, I started this Instagram called Jacked and Chill, which is supposed to be a play on Jack and Jill, because I also started Lexapro this year. And so I'm trying to be more chill and be as jacked as possible. And when I say jacked, I don't mean aesthetically. I just mean like actively strong for the things I want to do in my life. So within that, I decided to start a series that I just share once a week or so. And basically it's just videos of me lifting heavy stuff and talking about something I'm trying to let go. And sometimes that's like a serious thing. But sometimes, like the last one I just posted, I think was like, I'm going to let go of the idea that I don't need to warm up because I'm 34 and I need to start warming up for every physical activity that I do. Otherwise, I'll get injured. So it's just been fun to play around with. And it's like, I don't have the most aesthetically pleasing gym at my house. I don't have like the perfect phone. I'm not a content creator, but I'm just having a lot of fun with sharing this content. And I love seeing other people who quote unquote don't look like they're like fitness influencers, like sharing their journeys of getting stronger or doing whatever they need to be doing, like getting their steps in or, eating cool recipes, or like, I just love the more average everyday person who's just like trying to do the best that they can. And I just love that. So I just want to be, part of that essential community. And I encourage everyone else to lift heavy things, especially women. Just PSA, if you're not strength training, please start. It's so good for your long-term health and your bone density. And we need to outlive so many of these men so we can fight the patriarchy.
Yes, we do. Well, I think you nailed it. Like, honestly, one of the biggest takeaways from chatting with you is this is supposed to be fun. And wouldn't you rather have fun than be perfect? I mean, like you were just talking about the aesthetics of your gym. Like, sure, you don't have this, I don't know, crystal clear videography of all the different angles of your home gym. But like your home gym is called the Swoleria, and that's just fun. That's right. Objectively fun. So like I would rather watch that type of lifting and letting go video than somebody who has this perfectly unattainable home gym that I will never have.
Yeah, preach. Yeah. So if anyone's in Lyons, Colorado and wants to use the Swoleria, it's open to friends. So feel free to hit me up.
I have learned so much from Emily over the years, and I'm honored to share her story with you all. Connect with Emily in the show notes, and don't forget to follow along with the first 50K Sisterhood runners too. If you care about closing the gender gap outdoors and in, then you are invited to get involved with our work at the Alliance for Gender Equity in Outdoor Adventure. We have our Trailblazer program, which is an opportunity to turn your next adventure into a grassroots fundraiser that opens doors for other women. We have Gritlit, which is our adventure book club subscription. And of course, we have the See Her Outside podcast. A 5-star rating and review from you will help us creating more episodes that inspire women and girls to share their own voices and adventures with others. See Her Outside is brought to you by the Alliance for Gender Equity in Outdoor Adventure, hosted by me, Angie Lake, and edited by Allison Castonguay. Make sure you hit that subscribe or follow button now so that you don't miss any future episodes. We would love for you to stay in touch or send your feedback to Angie@cairnproject.org so that we can team up in our mission to close the gender gap and work towards a more inclusive outdoors. Until next time, go get outside.